The pastures that were once tranquil have now been transformed into a battleground. The destruction of the rice fields by millions of boars forces farmers to adopt firearms rather than wolves as a means of protection. What occurs, however, when the hunter is the one who becomes the prey? Who is going to be the one to take it away? As the tragedy known as the huge boar continues to spread in many rural areas, it is becoming a widespread nightmare. Because of their enormous size, razor-like defenses, and aggressive disposition, wild boars not only destroy crops but also turn otherwise quiet fields into battlegrounds. They are a formidable adversary. During the night, they wreak havoc on entire agricultural lands by charging into rice fields, greenhouses, and fruit trees all over the place. The situation is even more dire because wild boars are known to attack cattle and even people when they are surprised or stunned. Over the course of a single season, numerous farmers have reported that they have lost entire crops and tens of hectares of rice fields due to the presence of these destructive creatures. It has been estimated that wild boars are responsible for millions of dollars worth of damage annually in certain jurisdictions. These days, wild boars are no longer considered to be harmless forest creatures. They have developed into a true raging storm that is roaring across the middle of the countryside. This portion of the hunting had a similar beginning to the others. My team and I had completed all of the necessary planning in advance. After separating ourselves, we went to the meadows to tend to the ambushes. The weapons were loaded and ready to go. All that was left to do was wait for a target to materialize. Within a moment, the ground beneath my feet started to shake violently. At first, it was only somewhat harder. There was a roar that reverberated in the bushes in front of me that was deep, strong, and ferocious. Even though I turned around just in time, my heart was on the verge of stopping. Suddenly, without any hesitation, a massive boar charged right at me. There were shimmering hairs and eyes that were as red as fire, and it was larger than any of the others that I had ever seen. I instinctively raised my weapon to my shoulder. There was a reverberation of the initial shot of fire, but the beast was only slightly shaken by it. Although the second shot struck more deeply, it continued to come as if it was not even aware of the suffering it was causing. I remained motionless, my hands tightly wrapped around my weapon. My pulse was pounding wildly in my chest, and sweat was dripping down my back with its moisture. After years of hunting, I finally experienced the sensation of being the one who was being hunted for the first time. What actions would you take if, while you were lying down and being weighed down by the weight of your body, a massive boar charged at you? Are you going to maintain your composure and press the trigger at the appropriate moment, or are you going to remain immobile and unable to move in the woods? In the comments section below, please share your ideas. After this experience, which caused me to tremble to the point of death, I had not yet regained my breath when I was pulled back to reality by a noise that was coming from a distance. There was a peculiar sound, not just one, but dozens of footsteps stepping on the dry, noisy ground in the grass. That was the sound. The moment I gazed down at the field from the top of a tiny hill, I became completely still. An entire herd of boars was approaching, in a position similar to that of a military formation traveling in a horizontal line. They did not move away from the area. The noise was like a warning of impending catastrophe, and they were charging forward with a fury that seemed like thunder. As soon as I could, I called my team over the radio, and everyone was already in a defensive position. A resonant concept occurred to me in my head. In the event that we do not take prompt action, they will destroy everything. After raising my rifle, I pointed it at the lead cannon, which had a large muzzle lifted to a high position and eyes that burned with the odd consciousness. The sound of the gunshot echoed around the field, and as if it were a signal, the entire field erupted in gunfire and roar. The boars scattered in a haphazard manner, but not a single one of them fled. They were no longer on the prowl. There was a genuine conflict. Another boar, which was located to my left, attempted to break through the line of trees, but it was struck by the bullet of a fellow comrade. He let out a piercing scream before rolling into the bushes, leaving behind a trail of blood that was quite extensive. The gunshots continued to reverberate without any interruptions, and the wild bullets fell one after the other like iron animals that had been struck by the strength of full-blown fire. An individual who was among the largest of the herd was struck by a gunshot in the chest. There was a thick cloud of dust rising around his enormous bulk as he collapsed, and he let forth a single primal yell before breaking down. Even though their bodies were still warm, the eyes of 6 or 7 of them were already empty. This occurred within a few minutes of their arrival on the field. Following this heated confrontation, we came to the realization that we could not continue to stand face to face with the herd of boars for an extended amount of time. Both their speed and their danger were excessive. Because of this, we shifted our strategy. Our traps are placed. Traps made of steel were strategically placed along the paths that the bullets frequently followed, and they were expertly concealed with dry leaves, dirt, and branches. We went so far as to spread apps, which are bags of ripe and fragrant maize, all over the traps in order to take advantage of the vulnerable spot that these greedy destroyers have. As soon as everything was in its proper order, the group withdrew to an observation post among the perched fortifications that were located at the top of the trees, holding their breath in eager expectancy. It just took a short while. After returning, the herd sniffed the aroma of maize as it returned. As soon as the next one arrived, everyone followed them directly into the trap area. With a resounding and dry crash, one of them was taken aback by the fact that they were battling madly in vain. First, the second, and then the third. It was tense, yet I felt a strange sense of relief as I watched everything happen from above. This time, the win was not achieved via raw might, but rather through patience and a genuine comprehension of the individual who was the adversary. Leave a number 1 in the comments section below if you found this video to be beneficial. However, even after such victories, the nightmare does not simply vanish. For every boar that falls, there are dozens more lurking in the forests, waiting for nightfall to descend upon the fields. Farmers know too well that a single lapse in vigilance is enough for an entire season's work to be wiped out in hours. This is not just a struggle of hunters against beasts, it is a relentless war of endurance. And yet, what makes wild boars even more formidable is their intelligence. These creatures learn from their defeats. When one trap is triggered, the others in the herd become more cautious, avoiding paths that once seemed safe. Hunters whisper among themselves about how the boars seem to strategize, splitting their forces, circling around ambushes, and even feigning attacks before striking from another angle. It is as though man is no longer facing animals, but a cunning army forged by the wilderness itself. Moreover, the destruction is not limited to crops alone. In some villages, wild boars have been seen breaking into storage sheds, overturning water tanks, and tearing down fences meant to protect poultry and goats. They leave behind chaos not only in the fields but also at the very heart of rural life. For families who live off the land, each encounter feels less like an accident of nature and more like an invasion of their homes. Faced with this ever-growing menace, farmers and hunters alike are forced to adapt. Some communities are experimenting with new defense systems, motion, activated floodlights, electric fences, and even sound cannons designed to frighten the beasts. Others turn to modern tracking technologies, drones that sweep over the rice fields at night, equipped with thermal cameras that detect the glowing outlines of intruding boars. It is a strange image of tradition meeting technology. Rifles and steel traps now fighting side by side with drones and sensors. Yet for all these advancements, one truth remains. The wild boar is not so easily defeated. Their resilience, their numbers, and their unyielding drive to feed ensure that this struggle will continue. And as long as farmers cultivate the land, these black storms of the countryside will return, thundering through the night with tusks like weapons and eyes that burn with primal defiance. In the end, the story of man versus boar is not just about survival. It is about respect. Respect for an adversary that refuses to yield, for a creature that embodies the untamed spirit of the wild. And perhaps in every shot fired, in every trap laid, there is a reminder that nature will always push back, and the battle for the fields will never truly end.